What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 0 Mile ADV, a true beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling from a true beginner's perspective. Just a quick caveat on that, if you're new to this channel, I've only been riding motorcycles for about 3 years. Did not grow up riding motorcycles, so this whole thing is new to me, but I really love it. So with that, today we are going to talk all about the BMW R 1300 GS from a beginner's perspective. Is this the ultimate big bike cheat code? I've got about 300 miles on this bike. I've done about 300 miles. I shouldn't say I've got about 300. I've done about 300 miles on this bike, probably 50% on-road, 50% off-road. So we'll get into all the stuff. We'll talk about all you guys who are beginners. You're looking to buy your first adventure bike. What are my thoughts on this as a newer rider? Would I get one? What are some of the pros and cons? So with that, let's get into it. Okay, first, I think one of the most important things when it comes to adventure bikes that everybody's going to talk to you if you go to a dealership is weight. Now, with my exception, when I went to buy my first adventure bike, I bought a KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, and the dealer was like, all of the sales guys were like, oh, this is the best bike, you're going to love it. And they knew I was new, so maybe not. If your sales guy is smart, he might tell you about weight and controlling the weight. So how does the BMW R 1300 GS feel about, weight-wise? Now, for me on the weight, I think the reason I titled this video, is this the big bike cheat code, is that when you get off-road, there's two things. The weight can either be an advantage where it just feels stable, right? The bike, because it will carry its weight through things, it's just a little bit more stable. Like when I come out here and rip my dirt bike in this same area, a lot of these rocks I'm getting bucked around. I'm going faster for sure, but I'm getting more bucked around. Where on this bike, I can feel the suspension working. I'm not going as fast, but it's just a lot more stable. So sometimes the weight can be an advantage. I think where the weight is the biggest problem is if you drop it, which the BDRs I've done, I've always dropped the bike at least a minimum of 3 times, 4 times on Colorado. But, picking the bike up is going to be a challenge. And then 2, if you get into some sections where you got to move the bike around. So say you get up to somewhere where you're like, I'm not sure I've not got the right line, or I don't think I should go this way. Getting the bike going can be a pain. So, a good example would be when I was riding Chloride Canyon on the New Mexico BDR, I was on a KTM 890 Adventure R. Going up that hill was really steep. I lost traction, kind of set the bike down. I had to pick the bike up and get it back down the hill and then do it again. And just trying to carry that extra weight would be a bit of a pain. However, I think this bike is only about 50 pounds heavier than my Norden 901. And I would say I felt the weight difference off-road for maybe the first mile. But after that, honestly, it just feels really good off-road. The weight doesn't seem to be that much heavy. It doesn't appear to, brain fart. The weight off-road just doesn't seem, it seems to me, it feels like almost like a middleweight adventure bike. I've ridden quite a few middleweights. I've ridden the Triumph Tiger 900, the Norden 901, the KTM 890. I have demoed a Suzuki D800DE. So kind of in that middle range category, the bike just doesn't feel that heavy. Now, if you're riding like a 600 size bike with like the new Coveys that are out, or even like the Covey 450, which is even lighter, Yamaha Tenere 700, or like the Touareg 660s, those bikes are going to feel a lot lighter. Now, however, I will say on those bikes, like on the Yamaha, not so much the Touareg, they've done a good job on managing the weight and getting the weight down low and moving the gas tanks low, like a KTM kind of thing. But especially if you're on like the Tenere, that bike is still going to feel heavy because it's very top heavy. Awesome bike, but just very top heavy. So when you get in these situations where you're trying to move the bike around, it is very top heavy. Where this, they actually on the 1300 moved the transmission even further under the motor, and so like the weight is so low that it just doesn't feel that heavy. It feels kind of, for me, it feels like a middleweight adventure bike. Okay, let's talk about everybody's favorite subject, off-road riding. Honestly, the first time I rode this, I rode this, first I rode a Pan America off-road, and I was actually really surprised at how that felt on just some kind of 2-track, so nothing like super technical. Didn't get the Pan American anything technical. And then I rode this, and immediately I was like, oh, this bike is so good. It is so good. It does have the smaller 19-inch front wheel instead of the 21. We'll talk about some advantages with that later. Again, honestly, I don't really notice a lot from the 19 to 21. Now again, I feel like when I ride the Norden 901, especially out here in the rocky sections where I'm riding now, I can really push that bike really hard and run it really hard. Where this, I'm going definitely a little slower. I'm a little bit more cautious. So it could be that front wheel, that it could be that rolling resistance, you know, just like being able to monster truck over stuff with the 21, and that's what's giving me that confidence difference as opposed to the actual suspension. I'm not technical enough and don't have enough skill to be able to determine like, oh, it's definitely the front wheel versus the suspension. There's too many differences there for me to be able to discern what they are. But I will tell you, so far I've ridden this bike everywhere that I have ridden the Norden, with the exception, there's like a really steep bench cut trail. I'll put a video here. I went and rode a KTM 450 XCW up there the other day. I have ridden the Norden up that. I have not ridden this bike up that. Okay, other off-roading things. It has taken me a little bit to get used to the weight. For some reason, for me, I feel like on the road, this bike dips so easy in the corners, and we'll talk about road riding. But on the dirt, I have a harder time pushing, getting the bike leaned over and shifting my weight over the top, like in dirt corners. And so like my first ride, doing a lot of kind of BDR style dirt roads with a lot of gravel and stuff, I wasn't super comfortable yet at speed going into corners and getting the bike leaned over. Now again, I've only done about 300 miles on this bike, so I think that will come. I'll just start to learn the nuances of the bike. I'll get more comfortable with it, and it'll be a little bit better. Okay, let's talk about road riding ability. This is probably the best road riding bike I've ridden, and I have ridden a lot on the Ducati Multistrada V4S, and people talk about how the Ducati is like the best on-road bike. I also had a KTM Super Adventure S, which people talk about as like the supermoto version of an adventure bike. And honestly, this bike is so good on the road. It like, again, going back to the motor where I talked about earlier, it feels like with this Boxer motor, it's like a cheat code again. Like it just wants to lean in the corners. And so when you're riding through canyons, we have a really cool canyon over here, some really good twisty roads. I just feel so confident, and the bike feels so stable leaned over. It doesn't feel like you're pushing your limits. And actually there's a sport mode on here where it'll actually tell you your lean angle, and I'm not sure if it gives you warnings if you're getting into dangerous territory, because I'm not that good. I can't lean this thing very hard. But there are some videos. There's actually a video of like a super or a MotoGP guy riding this BMW, and he's got it so far leaned over, and he's like dragging the rear end. Like, it is incredible to watch. And so with the smaller front wheel, the telelever suspension on the road is also amazing. You don't realize how great it is to not have front fork dive when you're braking hard until you ride this. And then the bike just stays level. It is super nice. And so there's been times where maybe you come around a corner and there's a bit of traffic, and you got to get the bike up and then brake, you know, squeeze the brake as they teach you. Don't slam on the brake. But when you hit the brakes on hard, the bike stays level, and it's just so nice. Also, I talked about on the telelever suspension, like off-road, another off-road thing. We're going backwards a little bit. You know, I feel like it takes away some of the scary feeling. And I first learned this with the telelever when I rode the BMW R 1250 GS. I just felt like it's, you know, a lot of times when you're on the dirt road, you can feel the shimmy a lot, and it just takes away a lot of that it mutes a lot of that feedback into the handlebars. And so you feel a lot more comfortable. And I think if you're new, that can definitely be helpful, because then you'll realize what the bike is capable of doing without all the fear elements and feedback coming into your hands. Now, the downside of that is then once you get onto a bike with standard forks and you start feeling all that feedback, it may be 8 steps forward, 10 steps back, because then now you're all over the place. Where if you ride a bike with standard forks and then you ride this, it feels so smooth that it might be a benefit. So there might be some give and take there. I'm not sure if it's really, you know, now thinking about it out loud, is it a good thing or not? I'm not sure. I think it would have been really helpful for me to start out on like the GS with that telelever front suspension. If you are new to this channel, you know, I have been working hard on building a motorcycle apparel company. This is our 0 Mile Motorcycle Flannel. If you're like me and you want to come out here and you just want to do a quick rip, enjoy the day, maybe load your computer in your panniers, then run to your local coffee shop, get some work done, but you don't want to look like you came off the racetrack, definitely check us out. Today, I am wearing the flannel. I'm also wearing our over-the-boot double-fronted work pant. Not only these are double-fronted to help you in the event that you hit the ground, they also have Kevlar on the seat to help with that as well, but also a little bit more durable in the knees. So if you're out camping and you need to get on your knees and work on your bike, or whatever the case may is, just a little bit more durable up front. This is the over the boot version. We also have in the boot versions. If you're interested, I'm a brand new company. You're looking at the entire staff. It's me. It is just me. So small company, just trying to do really something really cool. For me, it's all about people, purpose, and profit, and things in that order. Have to make money, otherwise I can't keep making clothes if I don't sell them. So that is important, but really it's about putting people first, the reason why you're doing it, and then hopefully the money should come so the business is sustainable. So if you're interested in checking us out, go to zeromileadv.com, download our free BDR packing checklist. At the time of recording this, we are in, the flanners have been cut and are stitched. The pants are in the cutting process. The trousers are actually being stitched. Our denim is actually being cut this week. So we are close to getting, we don't have anything yet. If you go to the website, we are updating photos every day with our sample line so you can see what things are gonna look like, so you can get excited and know what you want before they come out. And if you download the BDR checklist, you're gonna be the first one to be notified of our first production run. We are gonna have a first edition member. So all of our very first production run will have a dedicated leather patch on it. That'll be a first edition. You'll get some lifetime discount and some other cool free stuff that I'm gonna throw in there for everybody that's taking a chance on us. And more importantly, I want your feedback. So we wanna be able to make products that you really want to like and enjoy. And so it is important that, like, I started with the base idea, but how can we make this better? How can we make apparel that looks good, but also functions? So with that long-winded thing, go check out zeromileadv.com. Support us if you're interested. And with that, let's get back in the video. Let's talk about the engine and the power delivery. I mean, it's like 150 something horsepower. I'll find out for sure what that is and I'll leave it below. But again, I love having a lot of power on the road. When you're on the highway and just getting around semis or getting around cars or getting out of people's blind spots, it is just so nice to have that power. The other thing with this bike is I feel that you're never in the wrong gear. I've had a lot of friends who rode sport bikes, and they said, you know, the nice thing about a sport bike is that you're never in the wrong gear because they rev to like 20,000 RPMs or something ridiculous. And so it's like you can never be in the wrong gear. I feel like that's the case with this bike. I mean, it revs to 9,000 RPMs. I will never take it that high because I'm never going to be riding it that hard that I need that kind of RPM. And especially doing dirt roads, I like to actually tractor a little bit. And I think that's where this bike is great. A good example, a road example, would be on my way up the Grand Mesa, which we can see behind us. You actually can't see the top because it's hidden there. But, you know, there's a nice road before you hit the dirt section, and you kind of come into a tight corner before, you know, there's like this one random tight corner. And I came into it in third gear, should have been in second, but this bike just lugged out of it so smooth. There's not a lot of that like it feels like the motor wants to die. And it's like, and then until you get it up to like 2,000 or 2,500 RPM, and then it smooths the power out. This thing will just lug, which, back to off-roading, when we talk about power, the luggability, it just feels like a tractor. I talked about this in my 1250 video, you know, riding that off-road around the St. George area. Off-road, you can just, the power delivery is so smooth. You're never in the wrong gear. So it's like you can cruise in second gear and, you know, not have to you get some speed up on the, you know, on the straightaways, and then just bring it back down to come into a corner and kind of like ride that second gear out, because there's just never, you know, like you've got so much width, I guess, in RPM range in those gears that it is amazing. And for me, as somebody who likes to tractor, it is a tractor motor. I don't know what to say, like that might be a bad thing, but in the low RPMs, it just trucks through here, like just kind of cutting through the sagebrush and stuff out here at like 1,500 RPM. You're just kind of cruising through. The power is super smooth, and it is absolutely probably my favorite thing about this bike is the power delivery. It's absolutely amazing. It is so good on the road, and it is so good out here. Now, is it as exciting as the Multistrada V4S? No. That V4, it does feel like a sport bike. You know, when you get on the on-ramp on the highway and you can really lean into it, and it has a really good quick shifter, it is absolutely amazing. You know, that bike, you can just rip, and it feels really good. The KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, similar feeling. Like especially that bike, because it vibrates so much, and it's kind of so loud and kind of aggressive, you know, and like the ready to race thing just sets that in your mindset, where it just does feel a bit more exciting. Where the 1290 was great for a majority of my riding, and I actually almost bought another one, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll do another video on that. Didn't get it though. But for most of my riding, where I'm coming out here and I'm doing just like a nice dirt lap, and then I might run to the gym, or then I might run to the coffee shop and work and have a nice cup of coffee, which is almost mandatory on the GS, so it's probably why I need to be riding this bike. But, you know, it's great for most of my everyday riding. But on big days, it's just a little bit fatiguing, I think. I think one thing that fatigues me may not be a case for you, the wind, kind of the engine, you know, the vibrations and stuff. That stuff tears me down more than actually like being out riding, where this bike, it is just super comfortable and super smooth. We'll talk about the ergonomics and stuff in the next section, so I won't jump there. One last section I should talk about as far as like engine and power delivery goes. If you want a quick shifter, the quick shifter down on this is almost as good as the Triumph. I think the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro, which I'm assuming the GT and also the 1200 models, has the best quick shifter. It is so smooth. It is so good. The KTMs I don't trust. I've had so many false neutrals with those, not shifting into gear and high revving and feeling I'm going to blow the transmission and the motor up. I don't trust the KTM one. The BMW one, it works decently good up. So like to go say from second to third gear, it works decently good. Down, it's almost as good as the Triumph. So like as you're coming in and you're like, oh, I'm coming in this corner, and you maybe let off the throttle to kind of use the engine to slow you down, you can downshift real quick without having to clutch, and it's so smooth on the downshift. The upshift isn't quite Triumph ability, or level, I should say. One other thing to know on the transmission, if you've never ridden a Harley-Davidson, the BMW definitely has that kind of Harley-Davidson clunk transmission feeling. If you've never ridden a Harley, it's hard to describe, but like when you shift gears on a Harley, you know you're shifting gears. It's like clunk, 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 like it is just big movements. This is like the adventure bike version of the Harley. It definitely clunks compared to the other bikes I've ridden. Okay, let's now talk about ergonomics and height. As I mentioned earlier, this is the sport suspension one, so it does sit a bit taller. If you are, everybody says I'm not short, but I'm 5'9" on a good day. I feel short. I guess I'm average height, I guess. If you are average height guy like me, or short, how I feel in life, I feel short, 30-inch inseam. For me, this bike is super manageable, and this is even the taller version. So with the sports suspension, this one is taller. I don't have any problems managing this bike. If you got the standard GS, it will have the adaptive ride height, so it makes it even easier. So if you're worried about height, definitely check out the standard GS without the sports suspension. This trophy edition has the more sport and off-road, so it sits a little bit taller, and no adaptive ride height. Which I don't know why they couldn't do the adaptive ride height on this one. Maybe the spring rates are stiffer, and it just makes it harder to decompress that rear spring to bring it down. You know, I mean, some of the other things that are just amazing on this bike, electric windshield. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. For me, if you saw my video on the KTM 890, one of the things that was absolutely brutal, again, that beat me down on long days, was just the wind buffeting because of that short little windshield. On this thing, so with the electric, you can just like fine tune. You can like just set perfectly how high you need your windshield to be. So it's just like beautiful motorcycle bliss, which is absolutely amazing. The electronics are super easy. You can set some quick things for like your ride modes. As far as like the traction control and stuff goes, not as good as the KTM or the Norden. Off-road doesn't work quite as good, but still very good. I generally ride this in enduro mode out here, which does have some traction control as opposed to the Enduro Pro. I think it works really good. I don't know how this one has like the BMW GPS mount on the top. I've gotten really used to using Onyx off-road maps and using a phone or a tablet for that, so I'm not sure that really is a nice feature. Maybe I can figure out, maybe there's a way to take that off to make so you just don't have that in your face. Then I can move the phone mount up. Heated grips, heated seat, front and rear. A lot of times those things are nice if you're starting on a cold morning, just to take the edge off before things warm up. Like I said, they don't seem like they're great, but once you have them and you can never go back. Like, at least for me, it is very nice. But I'm also somebody who's been hoteling my BDR stays, and I haven't been camping, so maybe I'm weak. Who knows? So, final thoughts for a new rider. Honestly, if you are going to, as they say for most GS riders, right? If you're going to be riding mostly on the road and you're going to be riding to your local Starbucks or your local coffee shop, this bike is absolutely amazing. You really cannot beat it. I think road riding is absolutely phenomenal. Off-road, it is confidence inspiring for a full-size adventure bike. Again, I feel like it's the full-size adventure bike cheat code, just especially since they trimmed down the weight and they narrowed things down on the 1300. That is also part of it, I think. You know, like now I sit on the Norden and it seems so wide compared to the GS, and it just feels more, it just makes it feel more nimble and light under your legs. And so if you can get the motor out of your vision, it just especially when you're seated, it just feels so narrow and it doesn't feel like a full-size adventure bike. I do feel like it is the cheat code for full-size adventure bikes. So if you want the full size, I definitely would check this out. If you have the budget, these things can get expensive. Again, I think if you're looking for a full-size adventure bike deal right now, there's some amazing deals to be had on the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, which I think would kind of compete with this, and you can easily throw some 50/50 tires on an S. And if you're going to be doing BDRs, like, it will handle it. It's got like electronic adaptive suspension. This also does have the electronic suspension. So when you change modes, it changes all the damping. I think this is better. It's more refined. Seems to work better than the KTM. The KTM is pretty good though. The KTM also allows you to change that rear damping, so you can like set that back end down. So if you're concerned, like I was at the beginning, about getting your feet to the ground. And also with the KTM financial issues right now, I mean, they're offering 4-year warranties and like just killer deals. I think I could have picked up this KTM 1290 Super Adventure S I was looking at. It was like 15 grand with a 4-year warranty. Like, you can't beat that. That is half the cost of this thing. So if you're looking at the Ducati, I don't know. Honestly, having spent a lot of time on the Ducati, I probably wouldn't consider it. I mean, the motor is far more exciting. It is good, but it's top heavy. It's not as good off-road. I don't know. This thing just really shines. The other one that you might consider would be the Honda Africa Twin, which is technically like 300 cc smaller than this. But the Africa Twin has a lot of nice technology. It's Honda reliability. Although on the reliability front, you never hear anybody complaining about GS reliability. I mean, and you see guys, we had one guy on our BDR that was riding a 1200, you know, and then actually another guy, Andy, he also had a 1200. So they seem to run, and Andy actually was taking his to some like pretty gnarly spots. So it was like he was using it and abusing it, and that thing's running. So, you know, I don't think you really hear a lot of reliability problems. I feel like it's probably a really good motor. So with that, if you made it this far, leave a comment below, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's try to keep this thing small to some degree. So if you do like this and you want to subscribe, but don't tell your friends, let's keep this between us, because we have a really good community. Mostly the comments are amazing. And if you've looked at any of the bigger channels, the internet can be a dark place, and people say some really mean things. And we've been starting to get some more snarky comments, which I welcome, because honestly, I don't care. You're like, keyboard warrior, go at it. Tell me why I'm stupid. Tell me why these videos don't suck. I don't care, dude. Have at it. Have fun. If it makes you feel better and I can help you, and you can rag on me and you feel better, then by all means, go for it. But anyways, with that, let's try to keep this thing small, because the community's been awesome. Let's build something fun. So with that, stay safe out there.